You think you need the perfect 60 minutes to build muscle, but you don't. I'm Alexandria. I'm a therapist and I've lost over 40 pounds as a mom and living in 20-minute pockets of time. And today I'm giving you the exact 3 workout templates that I'd use to get stronger when I feel like I have 0 time. So the first is the power pocket, and this would be my go-to if the goal is hypertrophy and making the most of your time. And this is my default when I've slept okay, my energy's good, I'm not sick, pardon my sick voice, but the clock is still ticking. So I'm using larger compound movements to get the most bang for my buck. So a go-to stack for me might be something like, a goblet squat for the legs, or maybe just like a traditional squat, an overhead press, as a push movement, maybe an RDL for, hinge or posterior chain, and then either like a push-up or maybe even a chest press for chest. And then maybe throw in some core, maybe not. I feel like if you're adequately like bracing your core, you don't necessarily need to put abs into a routine, especially if you're only doing like 20 minutes of time. And the format of this one is going to be primarily like 40 seconds of work with 20 seconds of rest. You can do this circuit style if you want for that, series of 20 minutes. Or if you'd rather, you can do something more of like a superset format. And that's going to give you like more variety. So then you could maybe, rather than doing 5 movements, you could superset, 2 different movements and really target those like opposing muscle groups. I feel like the biggest mistake that women make when they're trying to do like these shorter, quick workouts is they try to do a little bit like too much of everything, like a little cardio, a little lifting. And so then they end up never really seeing any results because they're just trying to do like all the things. Now, here's the science part that matters. The research shows that women in our demographic, our bodies respond to intensity signals. So since we don't have duration, we need to spike the intensity a bit. So you should be feeling these reps as you're going into them. If you're able to like think about your grocery list and just like passively lift like 20, 30 reps, then you're going to light for the intents and purposes of building this muscle, right? We're focusing on hypertrophy. And so we want to make sure that we are pushing our muscles, to our fatigue, right? Our failure. I did a whole video about this and I'll link it for you if you want like significantly more detail, but you should not like fight for your life, but you should be fighting for those last few reps, and you should have very few reps left in the tank when you get to the end of that. And that's especially important in these short windows of time. Then your rest periods are going to be shorter. And so that's going to keep your heart a little bit elevated. So it's going to give you a little bit of that cardio benefit too. But if you don't want the cardio benefit, then you can certainly remove that as the element, and you can just take these slower and more controlled reps rather than being so quick with it. And if you find this kind of realistic therapy but hectic training, it's your vibe, then you should hit subscribe. And that way you don't fall back into your all or nothing trap. Now, let's talk about the nervous system reset workout. So this is for my low energy days. And this is when maybe my sleep is poor, and maybe when I'm in like a condition where like I just have lower energy and I just need to sort of reset and get my body moving. And this is honestly the template that's going to save you from a consistency standpoint, if you'll allow me to put my therapist hat on for a second, because these are for the days when you're running on fumes. We don't want to skip these workouts though, because skipping would break the habit loop. And especially if you're early on in your training, you don't necessarily want to miss a workout or multiple workouts in a row. This would be much more like on the floor types of movement. So literally I do kind of like tend to stick to the floor. I barely even stand up usually. So I might do like a glute bridge, probably with some weight, but you don't necessarily have to. And then I might do like a chest press on the floor. I have a bench now, but you don't have to use a bench. A chest press on the floor, or maybe some chest flies. Then I might incorporate some abdominal movements like maybe a dead bug or bird dogs. And then maybe some lying hamstring curls using a dumbbell between my feet, or maybe sliders, both of which can be really challenging. But I eliminate the timer component because the timer can tend to add stress. So I'm just kind of monitoring my time. And I go kind of at a pace and a flow that works for me. More likely to do straight sets here, maybe sets of 10 to 12 reps. You can also do straight sets in the first style if you like, though. And then you're going to rest just as much as you need. The idea really here is just to get your body moving, do something. This is not necessarily going to be your all-in muscle building. This is really about just kind of maintaining the progress you've already made, keeping the habit, and less so about like fully like putting on the muscle. So I wouldn't do this all the time, only when you need to. And we're going to focus here on tempo. I want you to count things like 1, 2, 3 down, pause, squeeze up. And by slowing down, you're increasing that time under tension without spiking your heart rate. So you're telling your body, I'm safe, we're strong, We're going to keep the built muscle that we're building, and we're not fighting like a tiger right now. Okay. Because sometimes it can feel that way, right? And I cannot tell you the amount of times I hear people say,
like, it doesn't count because I didn't get enough of a workout or it wasn't long enough.
but this is actually how you keep that consistency is by actually just showing up when you don't feel like it and leave the workout feeling better and more energized rather than more depleted, like you might if you tried to use workout number one in these type of circumstances. Now, section 3 is for the travelers, and this is really about adapting when you don't have any, weights that you can use. So perhaps you're in a hotel room or you're visiting your in-laws over the holidays, or your kiddo's napping in the next room or maybe right next to you. And so you can't be banging weights around. The star of the show is here. Hi, Bella. When you have zero equipment, then we have to use physics to our advantage. And the secret here really is unilateral training because we're working on one side at a time. And so for this one, I would likely choose something like a split squat where we're using like the bed or a couch. I'm probably going to demonstrate for you on my box, but that's just what I have right here. But you don't have to do that. I would use a split squat with no weight, both left and then right, in a nice, slow, and controlled way. Then I would follow that with maybe some incline push-ups, maybe against a bed or a desk, and then follow that with perhaps some like plank shoulder taps. And then this is really, again, just about maintaining the habit and using what we have to the best of our abilities. And we want to target near failure. Still, you can actually do a lot with body weight. I think people can be surprised, especially if you add things like dimension with a block. If you have one, this block pretty much has been to like every state I've ever been to. You use it all the time. So don't underestimate the split squat. Don't underestimate the ability to use slow and controlled body weight rather than, like 50-pound dumbbells. Body weight can be plenty, especially if you're in a pinch and you don't have access to a weight room or weights. And for this kind of template, I do typically go back to the timer. I might do like an AMRAP style, as many reps as possible for that 20 minutes if you want a bit more cardio boost. But again, that's totally optional. And this really works to keep the momentum for your identity because that really is the most important part for fitness. For those of us in our 30s and 40s, it's not the perfect workout. It's the fact that we're the type of women who train. And so even if it's just body weight lunges in your PJs, in your hotel room, you're still casting votes for your identity. And, B minus workout is always going to be better than the A plus workout that you skipped because you didn't have your barbell. As a therapist, I tell my clients all the time, not necessarily always related to the gym, but just kind of life in general. Rigidity breaks, flexibility bends, and much of health, wellness, fitness, weight loss is about learning to be mentally and physically flexible. And if you're rigid and you say, I can only, work out if I can do heavy weights and I only have an hour, then when life gets busy, you are absolutely bound to fall off. But if you're flexible, then you'll stay consistent for decades because you recognize that any pocket of time can be valuable for getting you closer to your goal and being that person that you want to be. So the goal isn't to be a fitness influencer who lives in the gym. The goal is to be a capable, strong woman who has energy for her actual life. You can change your body in 20 minutes. The science backs it up, and my own weight loss journey backs it up. And I also did a video recently where I cut my workouts in half for 30 days. And so if you want to see the results of that, then you should watch this video here next, and I will catch you guys in the next one.